Well, we've had some other experiences. We were having the Alaska Baptist Convention up in Fairbanks, supposed to start one evening, but during the day, as committees were meeting and getting ready for reports and things for the convention, it was raining and had been raining, or it had been raining, and the old river started out of its banks there in Fairbanks, started spreading all over town. And the water was in the church. We couldn't even get to the church. Water was everywhere. Some of us went out to a friend's house. We were out there in the house. He had a full basement under his house, about 4 feet. The first floor of the house was about 4 feet above the level of his yard. And there was 10 or 12 of us out there. He had plenty to eat. He had plenty of dry firewood. He built up a big fire in the fireplace. After a while, water was gone and his basement filled up with water. But he had drawn a bunch of water ahead of time. We were there in his house. Night came and the water getting a little higher and a little higher. I remember I laid down over next to the fireplace and went to sleep. After a while, our executive secretary, who was Bill Hunky at that time, came over and shook me. He said, "Griff, the water's getting up higher all the time. What should we do?" I went out there and it was up just about to the first step coming up. It was 4 steps coming up into the house from the yard, and it was up to about the first step. I said, "Well, Bill, when it gets up that second step, wake me up again, will you?" And that went on. I went to sleep. He woke me up at the second step, and he woke me up at the third step, and he woke me up at the 4th step. And they were all getting a little panicky. I said, "Well, now just stop and think. All this land around here is level. And that water has thousands and thousands of acres to flow into. And I don't think it's going to get much deeper. It couldn't possibly get much deeper. I think we're all right here." Well, when daylight came, it was up to the top step. Wasn't in the house, but the basement was full and it was in the garage. And the Army and some other people had some boats around, going around the houses picking up people. And they were taking them over to a high school there, which was up on high enough ground where it didn't have water in it. And everybody in the house wanted to go. I tried to get them to stay there. I said, "We got food to eat, we got water to drink, we got firewood for a fire. I think we'd be better off staying here." But anyway, they talked me into going over to the high school with them. Well, we got over there, here's every room full, gymnasium full, everything full of people. The sewers weren't working. There wasn't anything to eat. Finally, some military group came out there and they had some sandwiches, but they didn't have enough sandwiches for all them people. But a big old military vehicle, high, got big old tires on it, 6 feet tall, came by there, came by the school. I happened to be out there in the front. And there was still part of the airport that was above water, and there was still some airplanes flying out of there to Anchorage. And I asked the guy where he was going. He said, "I'm going out to the airport. I got to go out to the airport." I said, "Can I go with you?" He said, "Yeah, you want to go?" And I climbed up on that big old truck and There was 4 or 5 other people on there. Went out to the airport. Went to Alaska Airlines, and they had an airplane to go take off in about 30 minutes and had 3 or 4 seats left on it. So I just bought me a ticket on the airplane and came back home. Now there at the counter was a young lady. She was a real nice looking young lady. I climbed up on that old truck. She was on it with her little kid and a cat. And she saw me. She grabbed me around the neck and hugged me and said, "I'm so glad to see you." Well, I thought, I've never seen this girl before. I got out to the airport, and she didn't have enough money for herself and her kid and her cat. And I let her have enough money to buy a ticket to Anchorage. She says, "I have some friends in Anchorage. If I can make it to Anchorage, I'll be all right." And she says, I have some money in the bank here in Fairbanks, but my apartment is underwater, and I had to get out of there. And if I can just get to Anchorage, I'll be all right, and I'll pay you back. Well, we got to Anchorage, and she called her friends, and they came and picked her up. I just went home and thought I never would hear tell of that money again. But about a week later, she called me up. She had rented her a little place out here, a little efficiency apartment. Wanted me to come out there, and I went out there. And she gave me a check for the money that I had let her have. And then I said, "You seem to know me." When I got up on that truck, "Yeah," she said, "I know you. There was some folks named Hall in Fairbanks. I've been there in their church in a revival, and they came to all of our conventions. We were good friends." And she said, "I'm their daughter." I said, "Well, last time I saw you, you were just a little girl." And she said, "No, I'm their daughter. You know me." So here was a coincidence that came along in life. It's a little peculiar and a little different about things. So